Hello, my name is Dallacey E Green, and today I'm going to be reading for you an excerpt from my novel For a Lifetime. I hope you enjoy it. It was a cool evening. The wind swept about her, whipping through her hair, wrapping the skirt of her dress around her legs, and yet she sat. Sapphire gracefully placed the tips of her toes into the ice-chilly water and watched as a circle pooled around it. Reaching for the pins in her hair, she pulled them free and basked at the feeling of her wavy red tresses cascading down her back like the soft, soothing touch of silk. Sapphire drank in the view of the majestic buildings which almost covered the sky, buildings that appeared to be flooded with millions of dazzling lights. Closing her eyes, she could hear the constant flow of the cars below as they hurried about, and the soothing sound of soft classical music which floated up to her from somewhere off in the distance. When she shivered, that is when she felt him, behind her, felt his large, overpowering presence. Anthony slipped his arms around his wife's waist and pulled her back to lean against him. Then very gently he began to run his hands up and down her arms to warm her. "You're cold?" he asked deeply. The warmth of his breath brushed against her cheek. "You don't have to do that. I'm fine," Sapphire said as she sat forward, away from him, trying to distance herself. But he only inched closer. "You're shivering, Sapphire," Anthony pointed out as he gently caressed the tops of her shoulders. "I'll be all right, and anyway, no one's looking." Anthony turned her around to face him. "What's that supposed to mean?" He looked agitated and confused. "It means we don't have to pretend we care for each other. We can just be ourselves out here." A challenging look flashed into his eyes. "And what if I want to behave the same way I did at the party, right now out here with you?" Anthony asked, deeply, as the tips of his fingers ran over her cheek. Sapphire shivered. Why couldn't he just leave her alone? She turned away from him and began to look towards the city again, as the silence between them stretched. "Sapphire, say something. What are you thinking?" "I don't know." She shrugged. "I just don't know. I guess there's so many lights out here, and I suppose each home, each family represents a light." Sapphire closed her eyes wistfully. "I was thinking there are millions of people in the city, and it would be so easy." She slowly shook her head, then opened her eyes, "to get lost in it all." "Get lost?" Anthony laughed dryly. "Is that what you really want to do, Sapphire? Or do you really want to hide away from me, hide away from what you're feeling?" Anthony had mentioned this before, on the night of their wedding. Why couldn't he just leave it alone? "And if I did, how would you care, Anthony?" Sapphire turned to face him. She felt angry at him now. She was so angry. It was typical, really, this response he always evoked from her. One moment she could be calm in his presence, and the very next moment it was like World War II all over again. He was pushing her, and she didn't know why. "You never cared before. Andre always cared about me." She stressed each word as her eyes misted. "He made me feel special. He made me feel loved. And I loved him. I'll always only love him." The words poured out before she could think of how to carefully word them, before she felt her heart sink. "Andre made you feel special, huh?" His eyes were dark and he looked angry. "So special he went off and married another woman? And you pledged loyalty to him when he never showed any loyalty to you?" Anthony stood up and stepped away from her. Sapphire felt his words as keenly as if he would have slapped her. They stung and tore at her heart. "You don't know anything about it." She stood up then, with her hands fisted tightly at her sides. "Don't I?" Anthony's gray eyes intensely bore into hers, like a lance tearing through her. "I know you're running away from the truth. I know you don't want to deal with the reality of what really happened. Sapphire shook her head. I dealt with it for the entire 3 years of his marriage. I woke up each and every day with the thought he was lost to me forever, knowing that no matter how much I loved him, wanted him, Andre was never going to be mine, no matter how much I wished it. So don't tell me I don't know how to deal with reality. And now he's gone forever, lost to me forever. You don't know anything about loving anyone like that. Sapphire choked out the last words, shocked she actually uttered them. Anthony guessed he deserved that for allowing himself to have her, and yet he took what he had been at first reluctant to have. Don't assume what you don't know, he said coolly, and I won't stand here and let you use that as an excuse to hold on to him. Let go, Sapphire. The coolness was still in his voice. Don't you see how holding on to Andre has kept you from moving forward with your life? She blinked, trying to understand. I don't know what you mean, and I don't need you to act the part of my psychologist. Sapphire dashed away the hot, angry tears which were now flowing. I've never tried to be your psychologist, Sapphire. I'm my husband, she said bitterly. Yes, exactly. That wasn't so hard, was it? And when she didn't respond, he continued, stop holding on to something that isn't real, which was never truly really yours to begin with. You're my wife, Sapphire. I married you. This is real. We are real. Anthony gestured to her and then himself. Sapphire laughed bitterly. And you want me to believe that this marriage is real? It was never real to begin with. She shook her head. It's all an act, like tonight, isn't it, Anthony? All for the benefit of your friends. Was it? He stepped towards her, and Sapphire stepped back, yet the fear was evident in her eyes. You don't want to face what is real. You want to run away from this like you have always done. But Sapphire, maybe one day you'll stop running. Maybe one day you'll give me a chance by just standing still so I can catch you.